Yesterday, we talked about the 2 roadblocks that come up in your way in trying to realize and manifest your future, okay? And those are huge. You've got to go back and watch that if you missed that video. But I want to stress another factor to this, and this is what's really interesting. Some people are really holding on to, instead of doing the thought work, instead of seeing that they can create their own life, they are one roadblock was, remember, they are letting life happen to them, and 2, they're not willing to work on their thoughts. So when that's the case, they're like, okay, if everything is not out of my control and I don't have any power over it, which is not true, then what is happening for them is they're just waiting. For a lot of cases, these people are thinking, I'm just going to buy a lottery ticket. I'm just going to wait till I win the lottery, you know? And there's this saying like, I'm just waiting for my ship to come in. What? Okay. Now, if it's your ship that you've sent off and you've invested in this ship and you have the crew and you're doing the work, like that's different. But a lot of people, it's like, I'm just going to sit here on the side of the shore and wait for my ship to come in. Like, come bring me the gold. Like, no, that is not how it happens. And occasionally, sporadically, on very minimal odds, right? There is that person who wins the lottery. And then the rest of the world looks around and they're like, oh, see, I told you it's a possibility. I could win the lottery. I could have all my dreams fulfilled if I could just win the lottery like they did. You know what's the problem here? Okay, first of all, it took all the power out of it, right? All you ever had to do was buy one little ticket and gamble and hope that it succeeded. That wasn't actually any real big action, right? It didn't take thought work. It didn't change who you were. And all of a sudden, you get all this wealth, this income upon you, and you're not equipped to handle it. Because in this case, you let life happen to you instead of becoming the person who went out to create the life that you wanted and becoming the person who could lean into that and become that. Okay, so let's back this through with this example. Somebody who inherits a ton of money, whether through winning the lottery or maybe through an inheritance, there's pressure there. And it's pressure we don't stop to think about. But there are a tremendous amount of research and statistics showing that people who win excessive amounts of money, they end up in depression. There's a huge suicide rate. Why? Because they were ill-equipped. They were not ready to take that on. They didn't know what that was going to mean. It changed their lives. There's tons of people who've won a lot of money, and they're like, I wish I hadn't even gotten it. It ruined my life. Why did it ruin their life? Because they were still this person, you know, like at level A, and all of a sudden they got all of this money at level Z, right? And they weren't ready for it. And it overwhelmed them and it took them by surprise and it just kept digging them a hole. Because just because you have the money doesn't mean you have the answers and solutions on how to manage it. What to do with it. Look at how many athletes. There's a lot of organizations coming alongside athletes now, but for many years, there were athletes who would go make millions and millions and millions, outrageous amounts of money while they were playing sports. And then when they were done, so was their wealth. You're like, where did all that money go? But they never learned how to invest and spend it properly, and they didn't have those life habits coming up. And all of a sudden, the money was just out the door. It wasn't even around anymore. And they had to go get regular jobs. And when at one point they had all the money. So let's turn this around to what we are talking about. If you don't let life just happen to you, if you go out to use your own power to make it happen because you're doing the thought work to achieve it, as you're doing that, as you're incrementally growing closer and closer to that reality, you are becoming, you are developing as the person needed to be to have that future reality. Do you see that? Every little step you take, whether it's a setback or it's an advancement, is getting you closer. Even the setbacks? Yes! Because you're learning from them and you're reapplying. And if you're the person who keeps picking yourself up and keeps trying to move forward, it makes you stronger, more capable, and you are more ready to embody it. So the thing is then when you do get, let's say it's $1 million, okay? You do get that $1 million. It's not a surprise, like when you win the lottery. It came to you because you were working, you were striving, and it was incrementally growing. And that process, Now you get it and you're like, okay, it's just like yesterday was. It's not that big of a difference because it didn't just bam pop. You were probably incrementally growing it as you were incrementally growing and developing yourself. You were leaning into your full power, realizing yourself, getting stronger and more powerful each and every day, becoming the person you need to be, and developing those thoughts to be able to handle it. Now you have moved those roadblocks out of the way. You have achieved your future, and it was within your capability to do so. I'm all in for option number 2. I'm all in for me taking the time it takes, doing the work it takes, right? Those 2 things alone, most people are not willing to do. Why? It's hard. It's challenging. You have to keep waking up day in and day out and repeating some processes. Keep going after it. But a lot of people are not willing to put that in. They keep thinking, well, this feels hard. And they don't work on their thoughts. And this feels hard. So it must be life happening at me, right? And they put those roadblocks back in and they just stay where they're at, where they know what they're safe in. That doesn't have to be you. I encourage you not to let it be you. Your life is too important, too valuable. Go out there. Figure out what you wanted. Strive after it. Understand what it takes to strive. Not try, but to strive in action. Taking continual repetitive action. Moving yourself forward and making your reality come true.